and Jeff Jarrett.
There's only one way for me to do this, and that's for me to tell it like it is.
Here we go. All right, we need to hear this. Let's lay out.
You know, 3 weeks ago, I left WCW.
Real life here, fans. More real than I thought it would be tonight.
3 weeks ago, I left WCW, and quite frankly, I didn't know if I was going to come back. And the reason I didn't know I was going to come back or not is because from day one that I've been in WCW, I've done nothing but deal with the bullshit of the politics behind that curtain. The fact of the matter is, I've got a wife, I've got 3 kids at home, and I really don't need this shit. But let me tell you the reason why I did come back. I came back for every one of the guys in that locker room that week in, week out, bust their ass for WCW. I came back for the Booker T. I came back for every single guy in MIA. I came back for the Animals. I came back for Jarrett. I came back to the guys behind that curtain that give a shit about this company. And let me tell you who doesn't give a shit about this company. That goddamn politician Hulk Hogan. Because let me tell you people what happened out here in this ring tonight. All day long I'm playing politics with Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan tonight wants to play his creative control card. And to Hulk Hogan, that meant that tonight in the middle of this ring, when he knew it was bullshit, he beats Jeff Jarrett. Well, guess what? Hogan got his wish. Hogan got his belt and he went the hell home, and I promise everybody or else I'll go in the goddamn grave. You will never see that piece of shit again.
Amen.
But I sat out there in the people just like you, and I know you paid good money to come here tonight, and nobody is going to be ripped off here tonight. So Hulk Hogan now has the WCW belt. And Hulk, let's refer to that as the Hulk Hogan Memorial Belt, because from here on in, that belt don't mean shit. Because there will be a new WCW belt, and as far as I'm concerned, that belt still belongs to the one guy that busts his ass week in and week out in the middle of this ring. And you people can love him and hate him, but he doesn't screw anybody back there, and that's Jeff Jarrett. Now hold on a minute. Jeff Jarrett is still the official WCW champion, but he will defend that title in this ring tonight. And he will defend that title against the son of a bitch back there who for 14 years has been busting his ass in WCW and can't get a goddamn break because of the Hulk Hogan. And I'm talking about Booker T. Booker T and Jeff Jarrett are the two reasons why I'm in this damn stinking business to begin with. So tonight in this ring for the WCW title, two deserving guys, Jarrett and Booker, will compete for the WCW and they'll tear this goddamn house down. And Hogan, you big bald son of a bitch, kiss my ass!
You say that I'm coming, better run for cover. Girls, you don't need a weekend lover. American males. If they want to talk to you, you better not listen. You might wind up in critical condition. American males. 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 American males.
Hello there, you lovely set of people, and welcome once again to Wrestling's Worst Podcast for part 2 of the moments in life where we look at one Hulk Hogan when he was an utter bastard. And today we are going to take a look at one of his biggest bastard moments, which is Bash of the Beach 2000. Now, I am not alone, people. I am joined, you've heard his voice many times before, of one of the co-hosts of the S&M show over in the States. That is one Michael Larkin. How are we doing, sir?
Doing well. Happy to talk about Hulk Hogan, brother, and Bash at the Beach 2000. Look forward to talking about it.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of Bash of the Beach, Mike, if you just want to let people know where they can find you on all forms of social media.
Absolutely. Facebook, S&M Show Podcast, or S&M Network Shows. Those are our like pages, so you guys can like us on Facebook. The Twitter is at SM Show 1 or at MCL92, and the SoundCloud is MC Larkin92, and most importantly of all, the Swerve Talk Network.
Michael, before we get into WCW in 2000, is there anything, obviously you're a man to come to of wrestling news, is there anything bad that's going off at the minute in the wonderful world of wrestling?
Well, I have 3. Number 1 was a recent one I just saw. ROH star Kenny King, Mr. Chippendale Dancer himself, will be on the new season of The Bachelorette, the reality show that is the equivalent of The Bachelor.
That's going to be fun.
Mighty. Impact versus Hardy's update. Reby Sky posted the following tweets, which I'll read to the listeners. TNA sent an absolutely laughable legal proposal. Trademark, usage, and ownership. Sigh, we need to play nice, truly. Oh well. Fun facts, Senor Benjamin never signed one piece of paper stating TNA could ever use, broadcast, or profit from his image or likeness. And fun facts, Maxwell was never legally cleared to work or appear on camera. Want to check them TV child labor laws and get back to me, TNA?
Oh, yeah. Fucking TNA. You can't say TNA anymore. Fucking that name is not going to stick. Impact Wrestling. It just doesn't work. Because it can't be shortened. There's no acronym there. What? Oh, I'm going to go and watch the IW tonight.
The Impact Wrestling. I'm going to check these out some IW.
I'm going to check me out some IW.
And the other thing that I could say is the Page, Brad Maddox, and Xavier Woods. Photos came out. Video came out. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness, indeed. So, Mike, let's move on to a bit of WCW leading up into Bash of the Beach 2000. Now, obviously, 2000 WCW is a whole different place. It's compared to what WCW were when they were fighting the WWE or WWF at the time during the height of the Monday Night Wars. WCW 2000, you had an influx of all your power plant wrestlers, and the roster alone, or all your big superstars, were kind of dwindling to an extent, and they were trying to push a load of these new names through. But for me, at this time, it was like too many new names at once, and you still had all your main guys, so your Hogans, your Nashes, your Goldbergs, your Halls. They still wanted them shot as well. So it was like Bash of the Beach, and we'll get into it shortly. It had so many matches. There was like, I think 11 or 12 matches on the card or something like that. And every
Oh, look.
single match or building up to the main events, let's say, were just an old guy trying to cling hold of his youth against a new guy who can't be put over because the old guy still needs his moments, and it just got a very confusing place.
Looking at this card, I do remember a couple of these matches as well. I do remember Hulk Hogan around this time period. He was wrestling guys like Billy Kidman and that god awful thing where they were fighting in the parking lot, and then he ran him over with the Hummer while he was in the trash can. Kidman pinning Hogan in the middle of the ring when Eric Bischoff hit Hulk Hogan with a steel chair. The matchup, I think that was a Great American Bash or something like that. I also remember Hulk Hogan versus Horace Hogan in the steel cage matchup with Eric Bischoff, who was the hardcore champion at the time, in Horace's corner. Just, yeah, a lot of bad stuff.
Just to give you an idea of how bad WCW was in 2000, we'll just run down the card for Bash of the Beach. So we started off with Lieutenant Loco defeating Juventud Guerrera for the Cruiserweight title. And then we had Big Vito defeating Norman Smiley for the Hardcore title. So them two matches alone, they're kicking off you've got two title matches kicking off your pay-per-view, but the talent in them four, Juventud wasn't bad, but then Norman Smiley against Big Vito, and obviously with the Hardcore division in WCW, that was just replicating or trying to repeat what the WWE had at the time with their Hardcore division. But the wrestlers on show, do you know what I mean? Big Vito against Norman Smiley, if you compare that to a Hardcore match from WWE 2000.
Absolutely not. I mean, you look at hardcore matches from 2000. I mean, you got guys like Raven in there, Hardcore Holly, Steve Blackman even. I mean, no comparison to what WWE had with the hardcore division.
Exactly. And in the card, we had Daphne defeated Miss Hancock, who went on to be known as Stacy Keibler, in a wedding gown match.
I remember that. Oh, my God.
We had Chronic, which was Adam Bomb and Crush for New Gen fans, defeated the Perfect Event, which was Sean Stasiak, Meat, and the Chuck of Billy and Chuck.
Chuck Palumbo, yes.
We had Chris Kanyon defeated Booker T.
Wow.
Mike Awesome defeated Scott Steiner by DQ for the United States title. And this was obviously Mike Awesome after he'd come over from ECW as still the ECW champion. And they had to have an ECW event where you had WCW's Mike Awesome defending the ECW title against WWF's Taz.
Yeah, so then Taz choked out Mike Awesome, and then he lost it like a week or a couple days later to Tommy Dreamer. I remember that.
Yeah, but during the time, because of the deal with Vince McMahon with Heyman, the deal was that Taz would appear on SmackDown with the ECW belt.
That's right.
Which he did. But because Vince is like, well, this is my show, damn it. He had Triple H fucking destroy Taz in a title versus title match.
Yeah, poor Taz got squashed in that match.
He's like, we'll send your champion back here with a little bit of Vince's sealing of approval. And then the last couple of matches on the card, we had Vampiro defeated the Demon in a graveyard match. We had Shane Douglas defeat Buff Bagwell.
Okay.
Then we had where the controversy all starts. Then we had Hogan defeat Jeff Jarrett for the world title. We'll get into that a little bit more in a short while. And then after that, we had Goldberg defeat Kevin Nash for Scott Hall's contract. And then we had the main event of the night, which was Booker T, who we've already seen wrestle against Chris Kanyon, defeated Jeff Jarrett, who we'd already seen wrestle against Hulk Hogan, for the WCW World Heavyweight title. Now, let's get into it a little bit more, into that clusterfuck at the end of that pay-per-view.
I think I just watched it back on the network like a couple of years ago, to be honest with you, because my memories of that is because they've done so many documentaries, whether it be on Hulk Hogan or the death of WCW, just that promo that Vince Russo cut, and then you hear in like many documentaries, like I think Hogan mentioned it in the Monday Night War, that this was the first time that he used the creative control card, which I call bullshit. And then you hear Eric Bischoff talk about it on Legends with JBL on the network. In a way, we're probably going to get more into this as well, but I kind of tend to lean towards believing more Eric Bischoff than I do Hulk Hogan or Vince Russo in many of the interviews that he's done as well.
Now, for me personally, there's no one writer in the history of wrestling who was more in love with the concept of a work or a shoe than Vince Russo. Now, back when WCW fell behind the Monday Night War ratings with the WWF back in the late 90s, Russo was brought in to oversee the creative team in October of 99, alongside Ed Ferreira, who was his buddy back in the WWF. But because he no longer had a filter for his insane ideas, Nitro and Thunder, they turned into Crash TV, and the ratings absolutely plummeted along with the pay-per-view buy rates. Now, no one was safe from Russo's wrath, including the biggest star in the history of the business, Hulk Hogan. It all kicked off with the finger poke of doom for me, and it got progressively worse in WCW since from then. That'll be a lot of people say that's kind of the turning point of where the remaining few sort of Nitro fans over Raw, they moved over to Raw after the finger poke of doom, and it just dwindled since then. And Hulk Hogan, the fans, they weren't big on him anymore, whether that be good guy or bad guy, and it seemed as though everyone had had enough of the Hulkster, let's say. And Vince Russo decided to write Hogan off television in October of '99 and didn't have him return until February of 2000. Now, Vince Russo's deal at the time apparently was that he didn't want the old fogies who had been running the show to continue clogging up the main event scene, and he wanted to push the talent that he wanted to push, and that didn't include Hogan. The problem with this, of course, is that Hogan had creative control written into his contract. So this is when we get to Bash of the Beach. Now, I'm sure you've seen them because he absolutely adores being on shoot interviews, does one Mr. Vince Russo. One shoot interview in particular. He basically gave this sort of statement in regards to the Bash of the Beach incident. So basically, I've broke this a little bit down into what a few of Vince Russo's side of the story. So basically, the idea of Booker becoming champion, the whole company was in a meeting, they all agreed that it should be Booker T. And Russo was adamant that whatever he had to do, Hulk Hogan was not leaving this pay-per-view with the belt, and it was leaving with Booker. Now, the finish was agreed, and that Hogan was all set to be like King Kong, destroy everybody before they would finish the night with Jarrett and Booker T having their match for the title. Hogan goes away, he comes back, and then they have this ultimate passing the torch match, let's say. But apparently very late on Friday, 3 hours before the pay-per-view, Hulk Hogan, he said that he wasn't willing to end the pay-per-view this way. And apparently very late on Friday night, Hulk Hogan's lawyers sent a fax to WCW office. But obviously it was Friday night, nobody was there to pick it up. Now, he said to Vince Russo approached Hulk Hogan backstage, and Hulk Hogan said, again, this is Vince's words, he said, it doesn't work for me, that brother. He said, now Vince turned to him and said, if this was really real, if this was real life, and you want to leave with the belt, well, if this was real, I go to Jeff Jarrett and I say, I'm sorry, he doesn't want a job. Jeff will be pissed. He'll probably come out, cut a promo. He'll tell Jeff to screw him. He'll tell Jeff, actually, yeah, let's screw Hogan. You go out there, you just lay down, let Hogan cover you, 1, 2, 3, kick it up, stick it straight up his arse. And apparently, when he's saying all this to Hulk Hogan's eyes are getting wider and he's loving this idea. But then Russo says, here's the kicker. Once we've done it, you and Jeff have to leave the building because we need to make it look real. It needs to look real. I go out there, I cut a promo on you, scathing promo, but you have to leave. Screw you, go home, stay home. I'm going to book the match with Booker T and Jeff. Then Hogan says, later down the line, we can do something with Booker. And according to Vince Russo, Vince is like, yep, that works for me, perfect. So he goes to Jeff, and he tells Jeff as planned. So now it's all a work. So he's going to Jeff Jarrett as a work and saying, oh, well, Hogan says he doesn't want to drop you the title. So Jeff's obviously pissed. So Jeff goes along with what Jeff thinks in his mind is a shoot. Because he thinks that Hogan's told Russo that Jeff Jarrett sucks, basically. Is this not just Vince Russo wanting to do what Vince Russo wants, but deflecting the blame onto everybody else?
Absolutely, I would agree with that. That shoot you were referring to was the kayfabe commentaries timeline of WCW 2000 when he mentioned all that stuff. Yeah, the thing is, I would definitely have to say that's just Vince Russo being Vince Russo, putting the blame on everybody else but himself. And yeah, like I said, the only thing I call bullshit was Hogan has said in the Monday Night Wars, that was the first time he used the creative control. It was not. I could probably that's bullshit.
WrestleMania 9.
Yes, exactly. There you go. And Eric Bischoff pretty much said the same stuff about Hogan, not their creative control part, but pretty much saying that Vince Russo, like I just stated to you, Dave, pretty much was just putting the blame on everybody else but himself and just doing what Vince Russo wanted to do. So yeah, I would say the blame is more on Vince Russo. It's not on Eric Bischoff. It's not on Hogan. It's on Vince Russo himself. But the bullshit is, again, the creative control card being used for the first time.
Definitely. And then Russo goes on to finish by saying that he went then backstage to the locker room and he's still keeping it all as like a work, and he's approaching Jimmy Hart saying, "What do you expect me to do?" Hogan says this, Hogan says that. So, but then he says what happened is backstage, he approached Brad Siegel, and Brad Siegel said, well, he told him that he was going to speak to Hogan because he promised Hogan he was going to call him in the morning. But Brad Siegel says, don't call him because we can't afford to have him on TV. So just don't contact him. So Hogan's now sat at home, and the internet's then blown up because of everyone's finished watching Bash of the Beach. The internet has blown up because it's like, hang on a minute, this is legit. I mean, everyone believed it in Vince Russo's mind. Everyone believed that this work, that he'd mastermind because he's a fucking genius, has worked, and everyone now believes that Hulk Hogan has now been fired by Vince Russo on TV. Now, because he didn't contact Hulk Hogan the day after, this is where the lawsuit came from. So Vince Russo blamed the lawsuit on, again, this is Vince Russo deflecting the blame onto somebody else. Vince Russo says he didn't ring Hulk Hogan and say, Hulk, remember what I told you, it's all a work. Because Brad Siegel told him not to because they couldn't afford to have him on TV. Now, surely, and Vince goes on and says on record that he probably made the mistake not to call him. It's like, fucking hell, Vince, that's the first thing you should have done was speak to Hulk Hogan just to make sure that he's fully aware, because we all know how much of an egotistical fucking maniac Hulk Hogan is.
Yep.
And obviously, he has thrown and he has pulled out that big creative control card across this whole pay-per-view. Surely, if Hulk Hogan, with a man of that much power, you ring him straight away, don't you? You say, look, Hulk, are we cool? Are we good? You understand it's a work? Because if you're Hulk, I do have an ounce of empathy for him because he's gone home thinking in his head it's a work, but now he's seeing that the internet's reporting and Vince Russo's still staying in character, that fuck Hulk Hogan and he's never coming back.
The mistake he made is he should have called Hulk Hogan. I don't care what. He should, with that man, like you said, being the ego maniac that Hulk Hogan is, you definitely should have called Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, and it's not like you're playing about with somebody who is a mid-card talent or even a world title talent, but Hulk Hogan, in Hulk Hogan's mind, it's Hulk Hogan. He's the fucking man. Hulk Hogan in his head, professional wrestling won't be a thing, and he's borderline right to an extent that it won't be a thing today if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. But Hulk Hogan still believes, and even though this is 2000, Hulk Hogan still believes it's 1985 and he is the man, brother. This is Hogan's side of the story, right, Mike? John Laurinaitis met with Hogan and told him that Russo wanted to lose to Jeff Jarrett at the show. And after that, he didn't have anything for him. So Hogan, obviously being Hogan, he didn't like this one bit, so he hooked up with Eric Bischoff, and the two approached Russo and came up with an idea that worked much better for them. Now, the plan originally was to have Hogan win the title, leave the company with the belt, and have Russo set up a tournament to crown a new champion, and have Hogan return a bit later down the line to claim that he's the real champion, and have a champion versus champion, and Hogan passing the torch. But Russo being Russo, he wasn't down for this. And thanks to Hogan's creative control in the eyes of Russo, he made him believe that he would go along with it all. So when it came down for the match, Jeff Jarrett, he came down for the match and proceeded to simply lay down on the floor. Russo himself walked to the ring and threw the World Heavyweight title at Hogan, telling him to go ahead and take it. Hogan looked all baffled, he gets on the microphone and he tells Russo outright, this is the reason this company is in the damn shape that it's in. It's because of bullshit like this. He then puts his foot on Jarrett and the referee counts the fall. Jarrett immediately gets up and exits. Now, the announcers, they were totally caught off guard by this, and it's been debated endlessly, to be fair, whether or not they were in the entire ordeal or whether they knew it was going to go down this way.
We all knew, Scott, I knew, you knew, as much as you won't admit, Madden, you knew that Hogan would make it back here to Bash of the Beach.
No, I knew he'd never, ever miss a big pay-per-view payday. What's Jeff doing? What's Jeff doing? Is it Halloween Havoc all over again?
Russo's
coming. Russo, I think, told Jarrett to lie down. What's going on? Look at Russo is holding the belt up like, do you want the belt? Pin the man. Jarrett's down.
And Hogan is as shocked as we are.
What in the world? Jeff Jarrett. This can't be Jeff Jarrett, a man that grew up in this sport.
Wow.
That's why this company's in the damn shape it's in, because of bullshit like this.
My God, this is real life. 1, 2, 3.
We've got a new world champion.
I guess we do.
Good God.
Now, in the respective books that were printed years later, both Hogan and Bischoff have said everything up to this point was planned. and they left the arena right away after celebrating, pulled off what they thought in their heads was this great angle. And then that's where it turned into a shoot. Vince Russo proceeded to come back down to the ring once Hogan and Bischoff have already left, and he cut this promo on Hulk Hogan.
Here we go. 3 weeks ago, I left WCW, and quite frankly, I didn't know if I was going to be back. And the reason I didn't know if I was going to come back or not is because from day one that I have been in WCW, I've done nothing but deal with the bullshit of the politics behind that curtain. The fact of the matter is, I've got a wife. I've got 3 kids at home, and I really don't need this shit. But let me tell you the reason why I did come back. I came back for every one of the guys in that locker room that week in, week out, bust their ass for WCW, bro. I came back for the Booker T's. I came back for every single guy at MIA. I came back for the Animals. I came back for Jarrett. I came back for the guys behind that curtain that give a shit about this company. And let me tell you who doesn't give a shit about this company. That goddamn politician, Hulk Hogan. Because let me tell you people what happened out here in this ring tonight. All day long, I'm playing politics with Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan tonight wants to play his creative control card. And to Hulk Hogan, that meant that tonight, in the middle of this ring, when he knew it was bullshit, he beats Jeff Jarrett. Well, guess what? Hogan got his wish, Hogan got his belt, and he went the hell home. And I promise everybody, or else I'll go in the goddamn grave. You will never see that piece of shit again. But I also sat out there and the people just like you, and I know you paid good money to come out here tonight, and nobody's going to be ripped off here tonight. So Hulk Hogan now has the WCW belt, and let's refer to that as the Hulk Hogan Memorial Belt, because from here on in, that belt don't mean shit, because there will be a new WCW belt, and as far as I'm concerned, that belt still belongs to the one guy that busts his ass week in and week out in the middle of the ring, and you people can love him or hate him, but he doesn't screw anybody back there, and that's Jeff Jarrett. Now, hold on a minute. Jeff Jarrett is still the official WCW champion, but he will defend that title in this ring tonight. And he will defend that title against that son of a bitch back there who for 14 years has been busting his ass in WCW and can't get a goddamn break because of the Hulk Hogans. And I'm talking about Booker T. Booker T and Jeff Jarrett are the 2 reasons why I'm in this damn stinking business to begin with. So tonight in this ring for the WCW title, bro, 2 deserving guys, Jarrett and Booker, will compete for the WCW and tear this goddamn house down. And Hogan, you big bald son of a bitch, kiss my ass.
Such a nice way of talking about Booker T, wasn't it? You know,
Exactly.
That son of a bitch. Such a nice way of talking about Booker T.
Yes, that son of a bitch back there, bro.
Bro.
Well, all you hear from him that is, if it's not bro, it's, can I be honest with you? Which you know he's just going to tell a bold-faced lie.
Yeah, that's Vince Russo talk for. Now listen to this, mate. It's fucking bullshit. So, obviously Vince Russo, then he comes out and he says all that to Hulk Hogan. Now, on top of completely burying Hogan and shitting all over his name, Russo promised fans, like you said, that they'd never see him in WCW ever again. And that's exactly what happened, as this marks Hogan's final appearance with the company, claiming that it was greatly damaged his career. Now, the suit was eventually tossed out, and Hogan would go on to obviously resurrect his career a bit briefly in the WWE in 2002, when he went on a big nostalgia run and regained all his confidence. So, this itself, it started out as a work, but then turned into a shoe once Russo was double-crossing Hogan because he didn't like his politics and backstage manoeuvring and his nifty contract and standing in the business. Now, so, hearing it, Michael, just on that's like Hogan's side of things. So, Hogan, as far as Hogan was concerned, what was going to happen is they were going to have their moment, leave the arena. Later down the line, Hogan was going to come back. So as it stands at the minute, if you're in Hulk Hogan's mind, everything's working perfect because, according to Vince Russo, he told Hulk Hogan about this process, that Jarrett was going to be pissed and lay it down for him. Hogan was going to get the win, then Hogan was going to come back. So at this moment in time, in Hulk Hogan's mind, it's all well and good. Break it down. You've heard both sides. Who's in the blame?
I've said it. I'm going to say Vince Russo.
Is Hulk Hogan for playing his creative control card? So he's the victim of all this?
In a way, yes. But like I said, him saying that creative control, this is the first time we've done his bullshit. Like you said, WrestleMania 9, he's done it many times, being the egomaniac that he is. But Vince Russo should have called Hulk Hogan and just the whole thing was a clusterfuck. But yeah, both of them I would say were just wrong because like I said, the creative control thing wrong. Vince Russo was mostly to blame just for that because it was his whole schmaz. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say Russo, but Hulk Hogan is of some to blame. But yeah, he was a little bit victim in this particular scenario.
I just think that the cocktail of Hulk Hogan and Vince Russo should never have met.
No, no, not at all. I
Not
mean, that
not
we
in a
would see them
position, not in a position where you've got nobody like a Vince McMahon, like I said earlier. You've not got a filter.
exactly that they would meet again like in TNA, which is IW now, Impact Wrestling. So then you would see
IW.
IW, they would see each other again in Impact Wrestling. So there you go.
Oh dear me, and that obviously we know what happened there.
Yes.
So what we'll do is we'll wrap up Bash of the Beach there, but as this is the Hulk Hogan special, I'll throw it out to you, Mike. Obviously, you as we've discussed many a times, you started watching wrestling in like 2002, so you missed the golden generation of Hulk Hogan, let's say. So I want the best Hulk Hogan memory that you have, and the worst.
Okay, the worst one I'll start with first, because there was a lot of Hulk Hogan worst ones. WrestleMania 9, which you mentioned a lot. Him beating Yokozuna was just terrible. He should not have won. He should have passed the torch to Brett, but that's another story. Uh, One thing that was bad was WCW. There's no Hulkamaniacs here, brother. When he's with the Dungeon of Doom, that was terrible. When he's looking at the Ultimate Warrior in the mirror, which was the build-up for the Halloween Havoc match, which was terrible. That was horrible.
Oh, the fireball spot to end that match.
Oh my God, yes. The finger poke of Doom was terrible. And the feud with Billy Kidman was terrible. Pretty much anything from '99 to 2000 that he did was terrible. 2002, if I was to say anything worse that he did, 2003, Mr. America was Mr. America. But yeah, just we all knew it was Hulk Hogan. Stop it. Mr. America kind of ranked there. And the best, I did enjoy that 2002 run. I mean, his matches with Kurt Angle, he did that thing with Brock where he was bleeding out the mouth from the Brock lock on that edition of SmackDown. The Vince McMahon matchup at WrestleMania 19 where Piper got involved, I did enjoy that. The Hogan Michaels matchup, even though Michaels pretty much did what he did in that, which I don't blame him. Hulk Hogan even versus Randy Orton from SummerSlam 2006. Those are some of my memories and good stuff that I'll say in there that I did enjoy of Hulk Hogan. Hell, if you even take it back to WrestleManias, the first WrestleMania and WrestleMania 2, King Kong Bundy, Hulk Hogan and Andre, Hogan and Savage, Hogan and Warrior even. Those rank up there for me.
And that's where it should have stopped, right, with Hulk Hogan. Like going back to what I touched on a bit ago. He in 2000, Hulk Hogan firmly believes it's still 1983. WrestleMania 1's round corner, and I am the man, and I should be the man. And if you don't book me, and I'm not the champion, your company won't make money. It's like, excuse me, Hulk. Did you not see because of bullshit like this, the company's not making money because nobody wants to see Hulk Hogan as world champion in 2000. People wanted to see Chris Benoit's, your Perry Saturn's, your Dean Malenko's, or everybody, your Jericho's, everybody that went to WWE because Hulk Hogan, and because he's in the ear of everybody, and Kevin Nash, because he's in the ear of everybody, because they still want to be the top men, they shit on everybody. And like touched on, you said with the feud with Billy Kidman, I'd like to believe in anybody's mind that's to use to try and propel Billy Kidman, but in Hulk Hogan's mind, that was to use to make Hogan still look hip and relevant.
And nobody could say that he put over Kidman because that bullshit with Bischoff hitting him with the chair and then Kidman would be pinning him 1, 2, 3 by Eric Bischoff pinning him. That does not count. I'm sorry, that doesn't count. It didn't help Billy Kidman in any way. It didn't help that new blood in the Millionaires Club crap that we got in 2000. That did not help Billy Kidman at all. It was just to make Hulk Hogan be the egomaniac that he was.
Totally agree. And Hulk Hogan.
Exactly. You said it right there. Self-explanatory.
It's like when you sit there and you discuss Hulk Hogan's like good moments, I struggle because the more you look into it and the more you hear all the stories and you read stuff about near enough every single moment in Hulk Hogan's career where he was on top, it was on top because he either politicked to get on top or he stepped on people to get on top.
Exactly, and I'll say this: like when we go back to the '02 run where he came back from that nostalgia stuff, Him and The Rock from WrestleMania 18, that was tremendous. That was an excellent moment. What I was not a fan of was what they did a year later when they decided, let's do the rematch in Montreal, No Way Out 2003, and let's do what we did with Brett and Shawn, because they hadn't been in that arena since Brett and Shawn happened in 2003, and they did that whole schmaz. They should have just left that alone and let it be the one matchup that we got, that great WrestleMania 18 classic.
It was just that second run. I know you said you enjoyed it, but for me, I just didn't want to see it. I just really didn't want to see it.
Come on, man. You don't want to hear him come out to Voodoo Child each and every week?
No. So, what you've seen, guys, over this last couple of episodes is, for me personally, two of the most standout moments in the life and times of one Terry Bollea. Bit of a bastard, majority of the time. Was needed, was very much needed, and I've touched on, I'll always say it, Hulk Hogan. Late 80s, early 90s, and then the resurrection of WCW with the NWO, it was needed. Hulk Hogan was pivotal, absolutely pivotal. But then once fans' interest died, Hulk Hogan's interest in Hulk Hogan will never die. And Hulk Hogan, you'll be nothing but a bastard in my eyes. So Mike, I will thank you again, sir, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure discussing the life and times of Hulk Hogan in 2000. Again, if you just want to let the people know where they can find you and what have we got coming up on the S&M podcast.
Absolutely. S&M Show Podcast, episode 31 is up right now. And what's going to be on the Swerve Talk Network next week is my interview that I recorded last night with Angel Orsini, better known as the Prada Jet, and the original ECW. So I hope you guys enjoy that. But again, S&M Show Podcast and S&M Network shows on the Facebook. Give us a like. Twitter is at SM Show 1 or at MCL92. SoundCloud is MC Larkin92. And again, most importantly, it's on the Swerve Talk Network.
Awesome, awesome. And guys, as always, thank you ever so much for every single one of you that's giving me a watch on YouTube. Appreciate it ever so much. And if you don't already, you can find us on Facebook at Wrestling's Worst Podcast and on Twitter at WWPodcast20. Coming up next, I'll be joined by Jay Giles of the Keeder and Jay Show, as we are going to take a look at Gang Wars in 1997. They had the groups such as the DOA and Los Boricuas and the Nation of Domination, in what can go on record as probably one of the most racial storylines that WWE's ever produced.
Yes.
But until next time, Mike, again, it's been a pleasure. And guys, I've been Dave, and until next time, peace out.
You say I'm coming, better run for cover. Girls, you don't need a weekend lover. American males. If they want to talk to you, you better not.